This is a website that is vulnerable to file upload weaknesses. In fact, this is a challenge that I created for a past Capture the Flag competition. This was the Bumblebee challenge for HacktivityCon 2021. It is meant to be a sort of sequel or sibling challenge to the Worker Bee challenge that was previously for NomCon Capture the Flag that I also created. And I wanted to showcase this to you because, hey, I think it's a little bit of a fun one and it gets us into some more Capture the Flag shenanigans. Now, this is a challenge created within Django, a Python framework for web applications, and it has a unique vulnerability. Well, not so unique, but it offers arbitrary write. In the Worker Bee challenge, we saw arbitrary read, and now we're able to do some damage with a different spin on a vulnerability where we can compromise this machine, this box, this endpoint, and gain access and control over the system. That's what we're going to dive into in this video. But first, hey, I'd love to get some love out for the sponsors. Thank you. Developers are constantly changing the digital landscape, but building secure software isn't always easy, especially in growing applications worked on across massive teams. Companies end up with mountains of code, and they have to make a choice: stay competitive or stay secure. But with Snyk, you don't have to choose. Snyk helps bake security into the software development lifecycle. Snyk helps you scale and streamline by automatically scanning your code, dependencies, containers, and configuration files, finding and fixing vulnerabilities in real time. And it is super easy to use. You can sign up for free with my link below, import your repositories, and there, Snyk just finds your vulnerabilities. You can fix all these issues with just a single click. Snyk automatically opens a fixing pull request so you can just merge them into your repository and move on. And it fits seamlessly into all of your existing tools: IDEs, the command line, CI/CD pipelines, cloud infrastructure, and more. Millions of developers love Snyk, and you can see for yourself. Get started for free with my link below and develop fast and stay secure with Snyk. Okay, I am inside of my Kali Linux virtual machine, and I have this file locally as it is one that I've created. So I have the source code, I have the application and everything, and it is all put together inside of a Docker file. So let me quickly build the Bumblebee with the Docker build command, tag T for the tag, Bumblebee, and period for the current directory. That should go ahead and spin up, and this will end up running on port 8000. So we'll use Docker run, tag P to map the port, 8000 inside the container to 8000 on the host, and the image name that we'd like, and that is Bumblebee. With that, we can fire up the application inside of our web browser. It is a web application, so let me go ahead and spin up localhost 8000. Okay, and now we are greeted with the Bumblebee application with a little tag, share a flower, and extract some nectar. We have on the right-hand side some directory listing. However, it only lists the parent directory, the ... or the period to move up a directory, and that just renders out this exact same page, so not super duper useful. Maybe there'll be something more, but ultimately, we have to show me a flower, and I'll track down the pollen and the nectar. So we can upload a file, seemingly, with the choose file, and then presumably submit this. So I suppose let's create a temporary file to play with. I'll go ahead and just echo, please subscribe into a rose. How about that? Cool. So let me get this current directory so I can quickly copy and paste that while I upload this. We'll go ahead and move into that directory, and here we have a rose to go ahead and upload. Let me upload this, but it says, hey, I'm sorry, this doesn't look like a flower that we know how to extract from. Okay, so there might be some other shenanigans or things in the way that don't actually allow me to do this the way that I would have expected to. If I actually go ahead and open the network tab, I hit F12 on my keyboard, we could go see everything that we are interacting with. That way we can see what is this thing that we're trying to do. If we go ahead and post to this, when I hit Control-Shift-R on my keyboard to resend those same HTTP requests, we're going to flower as the endpoint, and we're posting to it with the file that we would like to upload. Ends up returning the response that we have seen, and this will give us the source code to the web page just as well. The same if we were to hit Control-U or the view page source. It's just HTML with just a little bit of inline CSS or cascading style sheets. There's not a whole lot for us to go off of here, so we don't have much to work with other than this error message. I suppose going to /nectar, that's just that directory indexing that we saw as part of the iframe previously. So what do we do here? How can we break this? How could I determine what else I need to do to actually get a file to upload? Let's just put this together in maybe a quick little Python script. That way, hey, we can play with it a little bit more. And, oh, we're using Python 4 all of a sudden. Sorry. And let's go ahead and grab the requests module so we can go ahead and try to post to that link, which was HTTP. Should be localhost on port 8000. And that endpoint was what? /flower. Okay. But we need to go ahead and upload a file. So let me just grab a files keyword. And I believe that needs to just be a dictionary with the parameter name that we're trying to upload. And if we actually view the source here, that tells us within the form HTML the name of what we want to upload. In this case, it is flower. Okay, so let's say flower can go ahead and equal and open a file here. Actually, I suppose we can just make a memory in object, or an object in memory. Python, let me Google that super duper quick. Oh, here's just a little quick syntax off of Stack Overflow and just creating and slapping up together a zip file. I guess that's fine. We don't need logging. We can remove that. We already have imported requests. We create a string IO buffer. And then we just end up slapping together a zip file, which I suppose is fine, where we write a file. Maybe we can just straight up send that. I don't know. Let's try it. Let's use their syntax rather than that file upload portion. Let's see if it can spit together something. Let me go ahead and try and run this Python script now. Play. We don't have string IO. I believe that's just string IO. I think it's IO. Yeah. So C string IO was for Python 2. In Python 3, you can use the IO library to go ahead and grab a string IO. That will be empty. And then I think we can actually just use a bytes IO because that will be a little bit better than that. And we'll write a zip file into memory and then we'll grab, I don't know. We also need to go ahead and create some file for this file, correct? So let's say our zip can be the one that is created here. And let's say our file can equal bytes IO. So then we can use our file dot write be please subscribe. And then we should be able to just write our file to it, should we not? Let's try that. Path should be string, bytes, OS path like, or integer, not bytes IO when we're trying to use zip info from file. Adding it to a zip file. Okay. Python create in-memory zip file. Oh, this is a fun example. You can use write string given a file name and then value from bytes IO. Let's do that. So write string, I guess our file name can be please subscribe .text. And then when we write string our file name, we need to actually reference the bytes IO object with the get value function. And I think that's what we end up needing to do just as well for our zip when we try to upload it. Rather than using that buff variable, now we want to use our zip. So let's see if that will work for us. Oh, okay. No errors. So I presume that worked. Let's just try and set that to a response object. And now we can go ahead and print out that response. So this gives us the code that we can use to upload or automate the process of uploading a file to the application. We just went ahead and thought, you know what, we might as well make it a zip file because that was, I don't know, syntax we were easily able to grab offline. There we go. Oh, CSRF verification failed, request aborted. This broke. Forbidden. Okay, so we got an error. Probably because I can't submit a form. Oh, this requires a CSRF cookie. Okay, let's just create a session then. Let's use requests.session. And we can just call that variable s.post. After we get the portion here, s.get on the first page. Doing this in Python is a little bit annoying because we are going to have to scrape out that CSRF token. But if we view page source here, we should be able to determine where that CSRF value is. And there it is. Okay, name, CSRF middleware token, value is within quotes of the value that we need to extract. Is value present anywhere else? No, it is not. Okay, so let's look for value equals. Let's grab just the R as a value to that. So r.text. If I go ahead and print that out, just so we get the page, right away, it should spit out all that nonsense, but we need to go ahead and extract out the middleware token that we know comes from that value. We can do this in a super dumb, super easy way. Let's go ahead and split that on the string value equals. And I do want to include the double quote in here, which means I'll have to wrap this string itself within single quotes. Then I can get the value after that, and then I can split it right again on the double quotes, so I can just get that first value as if I'm moving inside of the double quotes. Let's see if that retrieves that. There it is. Now we have a CSRF token we can extract. Let's say CSRF token equals that. And now we should be able to go ahead and post to it. Don't need that trailing parentheses. We do need our files to be included, but we have to actually specify our data because that CSRF middleware token needs to be included in all of these requests, correct? Let's do it. Let's say CSRF middleware token equals our CSRF token. And now we need to actually try and upload a file. Let me just see if this works. Slap that. I need to print that response out. And this form has a valid CSRF token? Did it not work? CSRF token is missing or incorrect? No. I just retrieved it and got it out. That's it. That is a CSRF token. Like if we print out r.text, we receive a CSRF middleware token, YH that thing, and we get YH that thing. It's what it should be. Maybe we don't need the headers here. Maybe that's making it weird. Yeah, let's try it with the headers removed. Oh, what the heck? That's a new error. Here's what we'll do. Let me remove the previous print messages so we can just see response.txt. And let's run this within Sublime Text so that way I can set the HTML as the syntax. So I might be able to read this a little bit better. There's a value error. This is when I haven't uploaded anything. I just submitted to the form. Value error at flower. So this is like a Django, presumably Django, output message. Because when we saw the previous errors, we could see those, like even down below. You can see the Django version that would have responded with that page. It says, hey, 3.1.4, the post method at /flower, we can see some interesting stuff. Here's the entire traceback. This would look much better in the browser, though. Can I, like, save this? Here, let's call this as error.html. And let's see if we can just open that up. Google Chrome, error.html. There we go. Now it looks like I basically committed and sent this to you. You could do this very same thing with like Burp Suite, but this way you don't have to deal with, Burp Suite. So it is a Django error, and we can see user source app bumblebee's views.py. That looks like a path to the application itself. User source and then app and then Bumblebee, of course, being the name of this challenge, being the name of the task. That looks like actual code. And this is something that we might be able to expand even. Like if I click in on this, now you can see this is some of the source code that it is trying to run as part of the views for rendering out the pages here. All these other things just above it, these are like local Python built-in things, like to actually run Python itself and to handle Django applications. But this is the Django app itself. So we can only see a little bit or a couple of the lines here, but when we errored on line 26, we have line 19 and 32 up to that say, if not string request flower, so if what we upload, if the files doesn't end with a flower, sorry, this doesn't look like a flower we know how to extract from. Okay, so that was the error that we saw just a moment ago. And then we try to unzip, seemingly. Extracted equals the list of items for E and unzip of our flower. And it renders and it would succeed. Okay. So the unzip function looks like to be down here, but we can't actually see that. Seemingly the save folder is temp nectar. Anyway, There's other information here that we should be able to retrieve, like, hey, debug mode is apparently on for this application, so Django will spit out this error rather than getting like just a flat internal server error or like a 500. This way we can get a little bit more info as to what the heck's running here. This should not be on in an actual production application, right? This is the weakness of the application. But let's see if we can play with this a little bit more. If we know that we need to go ahead and have a file with an extension here, we could just try and, like, I don't know, upload a value of a file. Can we not? Let me go Google that one more time because I repeatedly forget how to do this. Python requests upload file. I think it needs the like bytes.io object passed in. So let's try to just do files can equal. We know the file name is supposed to be flower, and then inside of a string you can like give it a file name, right? So that should be our file name and then our file itself to be uploaded, right? Oh, but that needs to have a .flower extension, correct? So let's change that. It needs to end with .flower. Let's try to go ahead and run that. Still gets me an error. If I run this in Sublime Text, does that work? Where's my build view? B. There we go. Still a value error at /flower. Is it like not properly uploading? I might be getting that syntax wrong. Does it need the get value portion? Let's try and run that. Bad zip file. Ooh, that's a new issue. Bad zip. Oh, it's trying to extract it, right? We saw that in the function, and it was literally unzip when we saw that previous error. So we need to use our zip file, and it's a good thing that we grabbed that. So we could just use our zip get value. So now we have a please subscribe.flower that is a zip file, and inside of it, it has another please subscribe flower with those contents, correct? So let's try to run that. Oh, that's like a real page. Success. We extracted the nectar from the flower. We extracted please subscribe.flower. Ooh, let's go back to that page. Let me just go to Bumblebee, the homepage, and there it is. There's our please subscribe flower. Okay, it lets me download it, and it's that. So we can upload things now. We can write to this, correct? Question is, what can we do with that? We could try anything, really. Try to see, can we like clobber specific unique files? Maybe like an SSH key. It's set password, but we probably wouldn't have write access to that. If we look at one of the other errors, did we have like any strange permissions? Like what was in error.html? We opened that up here, right? Does it tell me what user we're running as? Oh, our home directory is /root. What user are we? User. What user is the server running as? Like under what context? Are we root? Oh, shoot. No, that's the server email, root at localhost, static root. Not very useful. I think the only thing I can see here is that my home is /root. So that's at least enough of an assumption. We're probably running as root on the server. So if we can arbitrarily write files as root, can we put them in like weird places? Like we know the path to the application here is user source app bumblebee views.py. So what if we tried a zip slip vulnerability where the file name could be here? Let's make these a little bit more. Let's use please subscribe.flower as our zip file name, but then the code that we actually want to use could be like index.html or whatever. And then we can write the contents in there and see if that will render the HTML for us in the directory. Does that work? Or actually, as a fine test, we could probably put something into like static. We could try to extract something into the static directory. Because with a zip slip vulnerability, we might be able to traverse or move around the file system, like the .. / that we saw earlier, where we could go into parent directories. We might be able to control any location where we write data. So let me just go back to the application here. Do we have images that are in static? No, this thing is external. So / Nectar is where it uploads things though, right? Let's try to just put something in /temp. Let me climb all the way up to the root of the file system. And can I just, knowing that, try to put something in temp? Like if this works, then we know that we have the zip slip functionality where the vulnerability where we can put things wherever we want within the file system, right? Let me try it. It should go exactly to where we thought we were previously. But let's just run this. Control B. I'm gonna run that in my terminal so it's a little bit more visible. Looks like it succeeded. Let's go back to the application. And I don't have anything displayed here. Well, we wrote that into temp, didn't we? So not temp / nectar. We want to go to temp / nectar to see if that will work and actually put it in the quote unquote normal directory. Let me run that Python script one more time. Let me go back to the application. Whoa, there's our index.html. And okay, cool. That renders just fine for us. Well, what if we wrote whatever we wanted to then if we are root? We could try and like clobber this whole application. Like we could just straight up break Bumblebee because we know this is in user source app bumblebee views.py. This is a Django application. So what is the Django application like file structure? Django makes use of a directory structure to arrange different parts of the web application. Once the app is created, the following subfiles will be present under the app. So views.py we know. URLs it needs to parse through to like route and put different pages from the application. But init.py should normally just be initialized, like the first thing that runs for a package, correct? So we could try to do like, can I put something in init.py? We know we want user source app bumblebee __ init.py. And then we need the values to be like Python code to actually execute. So let's try to, I don't know, have valid Python code. Let's import OS so we can run system commands, and let's see if we can use system to like, I don't know, curl a location. Let's spin up a temporary thing. And just like a Python 3, TACM, HTTP server. Oh, already in use, so let's go 9,000. Now that's present, and let's use ngrok to go ahead and make that publicly available. I'll use ngrok HTTP scheme HTTP on that port 9000. So that way the scheme HTTP suggests that it won't use HTTPS, so it won't add its own self-signed certificate. Okay, so now I have this location. I'll copy that. And let's see if I try to use curl on this. Will this code actually run? That's the question. Let's zoom out here and let's try to run that. I hit Control B on my keyboard, but now that we've uploaded it, we need to like trigger it one more time by retrieving the page again. Presumably, right? If I run that, hit Control B, it runs. Where did it put it? Am I putting that in the right place? User source app Bumblebee. Let me go validate that. We could like clobber views maybe. What if we tried like urls.py? Because we know it has to process that to route to the application, right? I don't know if it even has curl. Maybe that's the problem. We could try something like wget, I suppose. Before I go jumping the gun to change it, let's try to use wget. Or we could use like Python requests or urllib or whatever to try and get that to trigger. Let's run it. Still nothing. Oh, wait a second. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That got a hit. Look at that. Can I do that again? Yeah. Okay. So it's calling back out to me. I'm running this over and over again. Oh, this got an error. Did it die? Oh, it's probably... yeah, it probably was tweaking out. I'm sending too much of these. Okay. So now we have code execution. Can we get a, like, reverse shell? Can we gain access to this? Let's use revshells.com, which is a nice, quick, and easy generator to go ahead and put these together. We know that we're writing Python code, so we could presumably just, I don't know, have it execute that. Or we could use the one-liner in bash. We know that ngrok will allow this to spin out. Even though I'm running this locally, it's not a huge deal. But let's start up a netcat listener so we're ready to catch the shell as it comes back to us when we execute code to, hey, call back and give us access to the machine. This is the syntax that you might be able to use. Netcat waiting to listen if you want to have ngrok scheming up, allowing you to wait for it. Let's use TCP quad 9. I don't care. Now we have a host and port ready for us. So let's slap that into revshells. And that port was what? 12908. Grab and copy and paste that. Slap that in here. We have the bash syntax. Let's see if this will work. I'm going to change our command to run as, I should remove this folder. Rather than using wget to try and do our sanity check, let's just try and execute getting a shell and getting a callback. So I'm going to leave that window open, and I'm going to hit Control-B to run this. But nothing. Does that need to be wrapped in bash? Sometimes it does. Sometimes it needs to be wrapped in bash. So I like to use bash tac c, and then I like to even use bash on this. Oh, but I'm going to be nested in quotes here. So let's use the triple quotes in Python, so that way we can easily use here double quotes for our actual command, and then single quotes for the inner command of running the bash reverse shell. Does that make any sense? We're just taking advantage of the fact that Python has the triple quotes as another string, and then our command itself can be double quotes, inner command can be single quotes. Let's try that out. I'm gonna hit Control-B. It didn't work. We extracted it to user source app bumblebee init.py. We don't get any connections. Does that command not work? I guess I have an extra slash in here. 12908. That should be fine. Let's try without bash tac c. Just experimenting a little bit. Let's try and Control-B. Still no dice. Okay. Let me cut my losses and just try a Python reverse shell. Because we are in fact running Python. So here we go. Import, socket, subprocess, etc. I think this is a fine option. We can just steal all this code, and that is the correct host and port. Yeah. Am I still running this as HTTP or something? No, it's TCP. Oh, it just gave me a new one. God dang it. I shouldn't have closed that out. Here. Let's correct that. Okay. Now we can copy strictly the Python syntax here and include that as the code to run in our init.py when we're using our zip slip vulnerability to execute it. Fingers crossed, yet again, Control B. No. Oh, we did get it. Oh. Heck yeah. Okay. Weird shell, but I can ls and run commands. Can I not? Is there nothing in here? ls. Okay, it's just a weird shell because it's just running sh. I don't have bash. That would be why bash wasn't working. Okay, so, well, we are root, are we not? Yeah, whoami returns root. So let's try to go to that root home directory, and there is our flag. Let's cat out that flag.txt, and there we go. That solves that challenge using some zip slip vulnerabilities on a Django application with some stupid, silly file upload weaknesses. Very slick. That is how we would solve that, again, using Python. You know, I try to avoid burp suite, so I'm sorry, probably overcomplicated it, but we at least got some syntax to be able to slam together a zip file, go ahead and write out our own unique files in given file names where there was that restriction, and just sort of breaking the application in enough ways to figure out what it needed, and then we could compromise it. Kind of cool. I think anyway. I hope anyway. I hope this is kind of a niche challenge alongside what Worker Bee was. I think this is a little bit easier than what Worker Bee was. I will be the first to admit. I do want to show you how this is all put together. The solve script that I had previously is kind of using exactly this methodology. We're getting a host import. We are retrieving the things that we need, posting to Flower, first breaking it to retrieve the fact that it needs a Flower text file, and then sending a dummy file as a proof of concept to get the broken zip file error or a bad zip file error. That will tell us a little bit more of, okay, we need to end up sending an actual shell to this, or we can use that zip slip vulnerability. And that will end up giving you a callback if you had passed in the arguments to get your reverse shell. Nice. The way that I ended up putting this together is just a stupid, boring Django application. Here is the full source code that you could have retrieved out of it. You know that you're storing it into save temp nectar. Using this methodology of writing out files with a zip file creates the inherent zip slip vulnerability, and that gives you arbitrary write. So, okay, that is the flaw here. Everything that you need for the actual Django portion, again, it's just the boilerplate stuff to make this an application that will run within Django. Basically the same thing Flask-wise, but you need to be unique about the challenge hosts, so we needed to add localhost to run locally for this example. And silly forms and Django everything and the templates that we used here, everything that you've already seen from the external point of view. But that is that, and that is how I slapped together Bumblebee. Hope it's a fine challenge. Hope it's something interesting and worthwhile. I like to mess with Django because you don't often see it for, capture the flag challenges with web vulnerabilities. And I figured maybe that's a fine enough pairing between Bumblebee and Worker Bee. Hey, arbitrary read in one, arbitrary write in another. Maybe it'll be fun to put together some arbitrary execute, but look, then you already have everything you need, so I don't know why. I got to think on that more, but it would be very cool to have a little bit more of a trio of some challenges and maybe make something a little bit better than what this one was. I think this is lesser or lower in the tiering than Worker Bee was. Anyway, hope you had fun, had a little bit of enjoyment putting together those. With that said, I am all done rambling. I've been talking a little bit too long. I hope this video was fun enough. Get to explore, get to play, get to see what mess you could make with some file upload vulnerabilities and the Bumblebee challenge that I had for a previous CTF. You might be able to find some write-ups for it out online. It is one that is, kicking around. It's burned already. There are write-ups publicly available. But it's something we could all learn from if you're up for it. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. Please give some love to Sneak. Link in the description to sponsor and all their support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll see you in the next video.